I suppose the songs would have been predominantly Irish for the predominantly English for the most part. I think there was always a certain amount of Irish singing almost from day one, and there would have been very few nights when there wouldn't have been at least an Irish song. And as I said, Trasa, Trasa Ní Bhealláin would have come very early and liked being there, and Trasa would sing exclusively in Irish, and tremendous piano singer. And I would have a decent repertoire of songs in Irish myself, and I would also have contributed, one when it was appropriate. Anthony O'Farrachán came to us very early on, and Diarmuid O'Sullivan would have been one of the early singers, certainly in Thomas House. I don't think Diarmuid was in the Pembroke, but he certainly would have come to us. And they would have been singing exclusive. Well, Diarmuid probably would have sang some songs in English as well, but possibly in Góilín would have sang exclusively in Irish. So it certainly was a noticeable part of the night that there would have been a certain amount of Irish singing. Máirid Ní Bhéinig would have guessed it for us with Frankie Kennedy, the late Frankie Kennedy. They would have played in Góilín as well as a duet, but Máirid guessed it a couple of times, and most of Máirid's songs would be in Irish. So we would have been very aware of it. Both Donal and I, would be quite fluent in Irish, and we, like a lot of our, while we'd be massively interested in English singing, we would have had a reasonable experience of what was going on at the time in Irish language singing as well. And I suppose, the Oireachtas at that time was predominantly in Dublin. So at weekends of the Oireachtas in October, November, the people who up for the Oireachtas would come into Góilín. I remember a couple of great Oireachtas nights. They would pop in on, as I said, we started on Sunday night, then it became Thursday night in Thomas House and Friday night in the Four Seasons. So particularly when it moved to a weekend night, when people were Oireachtas weekends or maybe other events in Dublin, you'd have singers of all types dropping in, but included in that very much would be Irish language singing. So it was very much a part of it. And there would have been a reasonable amount of chat going on in Irish as well, as people from Clonbacundra would have turned up and that kind of thing. And there would have been a very easy mix, I think, of Irish and English as I remember it. There wouldn't have been a huge amount of music, but music was very welcome. And Frankie and Máirid certainly would have played there, certainly when Máirid was guesting, and sometimes they would turn up as well and play a few tunes. Maury Garvey and Dan Healy, two great musicians with a very strong Sligo repertoire, they would have come very regularly and played and loved the Góilín. Eamon McGivney, who's now living in Clare and who would have played quite a lot in the clubs as an accordion player at that time, now plays fiddle. Eamon would have come when he would have quite often been performing in Slattery's on a Thursday night and would drop into the club and do a few tunes before we closed, So there was a great welcome for music, but you would have to say that it was predominantly singing, unaccompanied singing, yeah.